Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be talking about something I think we all need to hear, which is how gear can actually distract you and why it's better to really just focus on like one or two things, work with those a lot, get really good sounds, and ultimately build from there rather than just constantly look at gear and buy new gear all day. So before this video starts, check out my website, electronicsamples.com, for the best samples in all of music. This is really going to help you take your tracks to the next level. You can also check out my lessons, track finishing, and ghost production. The links for that are at the top of the description as well. Take your career to the next level with all of those things. Thanks for the support, guys, and let's dive in. Alright, so the first point I want to talk about here is gear distracts you. You know, a lot of times we think that it's productive to go on and like watch a bunch of videos about a new synth, or maybe just even spend time in like a new VST that we don't really know or whatever. And it can be to some degree. I think a lot of times we believe that, you know, we're helping ourselves get better sounds or we're helping ourselves get to the next level. But the truth is, like, you could have also spent all that time making music, right? Like, you know, and that's kind of the thing. Is like, you know, you are what you spend your time doing. So if you want to be a music producer, spend time producing music. Don't spend time, you know, staring at new synths and going on Reverb and all that, because at the end of the day, you got to realize you're kind of manifesting yourself to not even be a producer, but to just be like somebody that stares at gear. And I know I spent a while doing that back in the day, and I think it can be tempting because you believe, oh, well, I don't have this thing, you know, this is going to take my sounds to the next level, this is really going to help me out. But the truth is, you don't need it probably. You know, we got to keep in mind, like, we're living in the golden age for gear and for synths and effects and all that kind of stuff, yes. But a big thing that comes with that golden age is there are a lot of people who see it as a way to just make money, and they're going to keep throwing new synths at you and new plugins and new effects. And a lot of times they're kind of just doing the same thing. So it's like part of being in that golden era is not just buying everything that comes out, but also keeping in mind that like pretty much everything that comes out is pretty good. And if you have already like a nice little library of stuff, which if you have any DAW, you already have it because you already have the stock stuff that comes with that. If you already have that stuff, chances are these new things that come out aren't really much better. It's just kind of like different. It's a lot of like different versus really better, right? And that's another thing. It's like with this channel, I've tried to show you guys, you really don't need anything other than the stock, you know, effects and synths that come with your DAW, whether it's Ableton or FL Studio or any of them, Logic. I mean, they all, especially Reason. That was the whole point of Reason, right? But at this point, you know, you really don't need much else. And they're just getting better and better. You know, these companies keep releasing new stuff. Ableton did Wavetable a few years ago. It's like, man, you know, you can make amazing tracks with just those things, I think. Of course, you're going to get some inspiration from, like, buying a synth or whatever. But it's like with the prices on these things, I mean, you know, like, I've got a Moog Sub 37, and I'm not really sure I've gotten $1,600 worth of cool sounds out of it, right? So yeah, the other thing is like having what goes back to with using your stock effects and synths is like, you know, it's honestly better to just have that one thing that you really know and love, and you can work with that, and you can really dive into that and build all your sounds out of that, rather than just have a million things that you don't really know. And that's kind of why I'm into the Sub 37. I'm looking at it right now. It's like, that is kind of like, for me, with hardware synths, the one that I can just go to, you know, and every time I want like a cool hardware synth sound, that's what I go for. And I think if you do it that way, that's the move. It's just like, if you just get, like, let's say you had $1 million right now, and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy every classic Roland drum machine, I'm going to get every Juno, I'm going to get all the classic synths, I'm going to get every old Moog, all that. You would just end up with a room full of stuff that you have no idea how to use. You know, you'd have to spend days just studying how to use like the pattern editor in the 909, right? So like, it really ultimately can be more of a liability than an asset to your production. And I think that's how you really want to keep it in mind. And then the other thing here is, you know, having better samples are really going to help you a lot more than just getting a bunch of synths and stuff and getting a bunch of plugins, because you have to keep in mind, like, these plugins and these synths, you know, you got to work with those sounds too. It's not just going to come out like beautiful. Like, even if you get like the classic drum machines, like I've heard everybody on the internet say this, is like, if you get a 909, well, it's not just going to be magical, you know, classic house and techno 909 right out of the box. a lot of what these sounds that we've heard with these classic machines, it really came down to like the way they processed it and the way they worked with it, and maybe the way they were working with tape back in the day or something like that, and overloading it, and like stuff that you aren't just gonna get if you just go buy the synth right now, you know? And a lot of times it makes way more sense to invest in like a sample library on electronic samples or something like that, where it's sounds that are already gonna be like a great mainstay for you, just like really high quality kicks, really high quality hi-hats, you know? Those kinds of things are going to get you a lot farther, because, again, if you get the new piece of gear, let's say you go spend $1,000 on a synth right now, the sounds that are going to come right out of the synth are not always going to be right there right away. Like, you're probably going to have to work with those. You're probably going to be frustrated when it's not just like a magic box right out of the box, right? And, yeah, just working with better samples, and particularly, like, ones that are made to just be those high-quality sounds you can use without a lot of processing, those better samples are going to take you a lot farther. And even then, like, those do not cost nearly what you're going to spend on new pieces of gear. Because, yeah, it really is hard to work with those analog sounds. And this is something that we all learn when we think, oh, yeah, man, I'm just going to save up, get that new Moog, and it's going to help me sound so cool. And then you get it, and you really do realize pretty quick that, like, it requires a lot of magic, and there's a lot, you know, we're in that era where there are these high-quality samples available, like electronic samples, like a few other companies as well, that right out of the box will just get you where you're trying to get, and you can really work with those. So I think it's going to get you a lot farther if you focus on that. And yeah, another thing there too is like, you can buy okay, like I said, go back to the example. You got $1 million, you can buy everything you ever wanted. Let's say you buy every single synth that exists, right? And now you got a room full of those. You got no production knowledge, or maybe very basic production knowledge, and you're kind of like stuck. But then you could take that same $1 million and invest that into lessons with a really good producer, and you would get way more value. And that is not me putting that on for an ad. I'm really just saying this. Like, think about that. Like, instead of spending like whatever money you would spend on like a Sub 37, for example, well, dude, you could spend that exact same amount of money on lessons with somebody who's got the time and can show you like the stuff that you're missing. And you're going to go way further as a producer. So I think that's the last thing to keep in mind too, is like there's better ways to spend your money, I think, if you're actually trying to get somewhere with your production, or if you're actually trying to get to the next level. You're not going to get that out of just buying a synth or buying a new VST or buying some new effect pedal or something. But there are ways, if you got a little money to spend, where you can spend that money much more effectively and really probably get the results you were trying to get, that you thought you were going to get if you just buy your new magical analog synth for way less money too, because the lessons are going to be a lot cheaper. You know, you're going to get a lot more lessons for the price of one synth than you would get with that one synth. The only lesson you're going to get when you buy the synth is going to be, oh wow, yeah, it turns out this doesn't make my music instantly better. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this one. I just wanted to give you some inspiration maybe to hop in whatever DAW you're using right now. Use the stuff that's available in there. And you don't need all this fancy new gear. We live in the golden era, but a big part of that is also that a lot of people are just trying to sell you something that's not really better, just different. And yeah, thanks for the support, everybody. You can check out my website at the top of the description, electronicsamples.com. You can also check out my lessons, track finishing, and ghost production. Again, both of those options I just gave you are much better than buying some new piece of hardware to take your tracks to the next level. Take yourself seriously. Make the best music of your life this year. Grab those samples at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.